You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hello. Hey y'all, thank you for joining me in another episode of the Hello Well with Danielle podcast. We've been doing this since the last month of August, and so I want to continue. Hey y'all, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Hello Well with Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle Washington, and it's September. It's like the months kept going by really fast, and it feels like our life is going. And I wanted to just, again, we've been doing this last couple episodes, and I've been hearing from you guys. It's been helping you. It's like, I just want to ground down into the episode before we get started with any of this, because I'm excited about what we're going to talk about. I'm literally telling you how I went from hating yoga to becoming a yoga teacher. It sounds super, super crazy, but before we get started, let's do a couple minutes just to breathe and tune in to just being present in our bodies and in the space to just being open to listening. So I want you to just make sure that you're comfortable in a seated position, whether you're laying down or you just be seated, but whatever makes you feel comfortable, be in that comfortable position and become aware of your breath. Gently closing your eyes, straightening your back, allowing your thighs to grow heavy and your chin to be high. Become aware of the support that's holding you up. Is it the ground, feeling the earth beneath you? Is it the chair? Is it a bed? And begin to take slow, long, deep breaths. Breathing in through your nose, closing your mouth deeply, and then exhaling through your nose. Do this 3 more times. A deep breath in, inhale. Exhale through the nose, not through the mouth like I just did. Inhale. Exhale. And one last time, making this count, remembering that you are worthy. This beautiful breath. Inhale deeply, deep, and exhale. And when you're ready to kind of rejoin the room, you can flutter your eyes open. There's something about a grounding breath, like it just makes you just feel calmer, feel more connected to your space, who you are, where you're going with. And it ties so beautifully into today's conversation. So I have a couple people ask me recently, like, how did you go from hating yoga to becoming a yoga teacher? And it's an easy path, but it's so not an easy path. And it's funny because when I say I hated yoga, I was so anti-yoga. I was like, F your yoga pants and your class and your Lululemon and everything about it. I hated yoga mainly because I just didn't fit in. I hated yoga because every time I would go to a class, I would try to go to a class. Like, I live in San Francisco, so, everyone's doing wellness of some sort. Before the pandemic, there was a yoga studio every few blocks. And so it was very popular to be into yoga. A lot of friends who were into yoga. And so, I tried. I had a friend who was a yoga teacher. And I was like, I'm going to take this class. And I remember walking into studios, and the first thing I noticed was that I was the only person that looked like me. Whether I was the only person of color, which was often the case, or just the only person who was of African descent, I was like, I'm the only one. And granted, yeah, I'm used to being an other and kind of working these spaces, but there was something that felt like you don't belong. It was like this unspoken, energetic mood of, you aren't one of us. What are you doing here? And I don't know if that was my own perception that was coming on versus it being the real feeling that I was feeling. I don't know. Because again, I live in the Bay Area. I'm used to being in multicultural experiences, I'm used to also being the only one, but there was energetically, it just felt like you don't belong here. And, people had their yoga cliques, and, you go to class and you're new, and most people wouldn't talk to you because they're talking to their yoga friends. And I'm like, well, I don't have any yoga friends. So I'm on this lonely mat. And, a lot of people who are new to classes will come and sit in the back. That's not me because I can't see. I mean, I could see, but I'm like, if I'm going to get whatever's going on, I need to be towards the front. I recognize being front was not the smartest move because then I couldn't see what was going on. So then I started being like the second row. That was my introduction to yoga. I was like, if I can sit in the second row, I can see people in front of me to see what's going on. Because I often felt like I just didn't know. Like I didn't know the poses. They would say, okay, now we're getting into Shavasana. I'm like, well, what's that? Oh, that's sleeping time. Okay, got that one. Get into rock pose, get into warrior one. Now switch into warrior two. I'd hear all these calls and it was like square dancing without knowing what that meant. And I didn't feel like they were telling you. I don't feel like a lot of teachers cared about that. And I'm not saying that that's the case for everyone, but that's how I felt. So it felt like I'm the only Black person in this situation. I don't understand all these poses they're calling out. You must be speaking a foreign language to me because it doesn't feel like it's English and I don't know what it is. And I'm seeing everyone getting into it. Had it not been for my dance training, I feel like I wouldn't have jumped in so easily. I would be like, okay, they're doing this. And so it's like picking up choreography. So I was able to pick up the classes to a decent amount of time, but I still felt awkward in the classes. I didn't have the right clothes. I didn't understand why I had to spend $100+ on a pair of pants and $50 plus on a little tube top kind of tank top to fit in. I was like, I'm not shopping at the other stores. Like I hadn't figured out yet why certain yoga clothes were good for you and not good for you. And I didn't have them. And I was like, and I didn't understand yet why I needed them. I also thought the classes were hella expensive. I'm like, these classes are like $20 a class. And I'm like, this seems stupid expensive. Not expensive as Pilates, which was just as expensive, but I got Pilates. I felt welcomed in Pilates classes. I felt like I saw other people who looked like me in Pilates classes. And I don't know, which is odd because they were more expensive, but I felt more inviting, maybe because also classes were smaller. So I was using the Pilates machines and I knew the direct correlation. Plus also I started doing Pilates because it was part of my recovery from one of my surgeries. So I didn't really have a choice, but I was happy to be in those classes. But I also saw teachers didn't look like me as well. So I was like, okay, not only is there no one in the class that looks like me, the teachers don't look like me. And then on top of that, the teachers were shaming me. Oftentimes when I first got into yoga, I had many teachers who would just shame me for different reasons. I remember doing this Bikram class, and I don't know what coworker talked me into doing Bikram class, which is hot yoga. So you're in a room that's hella hot and you're doing yoga. And I'm like, this don't feel like the smartest move, but I'm going to roll with it. And I went with it. And I was in a Bikram class doing the moves, and we got to some situation and I feel like we're holding on to something. I remember being something against the wall, and I told the instructor, because a lot of times instructors will ask you, does anyone have any injury? And I'm like, look, I have injury. I have this neck thing and I have this knee thing. And so, I've had surgery, so, please be careful. This is what I can't do and what I can do. And I remember being in this yoga class and we were trying to do something. And I was like, I can't do this because somebody's like, yes, you can. You could do this. Like, you're just being lazy. I was told I was being lazy. And had that been the one-off situation, I would have written it off. But I had another teacher in another yoga class tell me that, oh, you're not trying hard enough. Like, you could be doing the work better. And I'm just like, I remember first having in the Bikram class, having that same issue and feeling insecure and not really fitting in. So I went harder and was like, let me do more. And then I injured my leg. And I'm like, this is why I didn't want to do anything harder. And so when I had that second time happening and someone was telling me that I wasn't doing enough, I was being lazy, I wasn't trying hard enough, and I wasn't pushing myself hard enough, I felt like, well, this doesn't feel safe. This doesn't feel comfortable. I feel like I'm literally being shamed by this wellness person who's supposed to be all kumbaya. And I'm not saying all wellness people are kumbaya, but I felt shamed to be in this class. And then I felt shame that I was putting on myself because I was like, well, okay, the teachers are telling me I need to have my head between my legs and I should be able to be this flexible person. And so, and me being type A and slightly competitive in classes until I really understood that it's not about being like everyone else, I would do the same thing. I'm like, okay, their heads between their legs, they're doing this wholeness pose, the hands up at the same time. I would do it and I would injure myself. I would repeatedly take classes and repeatedly injure myself because I was shaming myself. I felt like I wasn't doing enough and I had to be like everyone else, fitting in. I bought the clothes, not the expensive clothes, because I went to Ross and everywhere else where I can buy the, cheaper version of all those clothes. I had the right clothes. I was watching the moves, and I, was in the second row, and so I had my teachers and the real teacher and the teachers in front of me helping me out, and I was doing the best I can, but almost like clockwork, I would re-injure myself, and I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm over. Yoga and I are not friends. And I remember doing a podcast episode, one of my first podcast episodes, and I was talking about the exact same thing. I was like, I don't want to do yoga. Even then, even like 2 years ago, I was still like, blank your yoga. I am not the one. Give me a dance class. Give me Zumba. Give me, I don't know, even weight training. Anything else but yoga. And I was like, I'm not doing yoga. Not doing yoga. And so how did I go from hating yoga, feeling shamed, feeling uncomfortable, and just saying that I'm never, ever, ever going to do yoga? So in my world, yoga was Taylor Swift. And when I say yoga was Taylor Swift, when people have been Taylor Swift or a situation with Taylor Swift, is when I say we are never, ever, ever, like ever getting back together. Like never. And so that's how I felt about yoga. And then I went to Bali. And that trip changed my life. I went to Bali in a moment of just real major grief. I had 6 people had passed away in my life, and I was grieving past even acknowledging the fact that I was grieving. I thought that I could just journal it away and, be in this beautiful location, and I was going to be healed. And just to kind of help push this healing along, I met with the Balinese healer. And this Balinese healer was like the guy, Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid. He didn't speak any English and super cute, short. And I was just like, okay, I don't know what we're about to get into because I didn't know what was going on because, again, he didn't speak English, but I paid my money. All I knew was there was going to be some kind of yoga and some kind of meditation. So in the universal language of we don't speak the same language, I used my hands to kind of figure out, to show him I put my hands really close together and I'm like, very little yoga. And then when I was talking about meditation, I'm like, and I expanded my hands out really wide. I'm like, a lot of meditation. So little putting my hands together, little yoga, expanding my hands out, lot of meditation. Well, this man decided to do a lot of yoga and very little meditation. I was like, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. Wait, but why do I feel better? Why do I mentally feel better? I'm like, I'm doing all these physical movements, but mentally I'm starting to feel like things are releasing. And I couldn't understand. I was like, what did he just do? And I'm like, this feels weird. And I remember sitting in my villa, this gorgeous villa in like the small town in Bali, and just questioning how did those yoga moves work to where I was feeling better. And I couldn't understand it. So I remember leaving the resort, going to a Ubud in Bali, and I remember going to this place called Yoga Barn. I'd been there before because they do a lot of meditation. So I was already planning on going there to do meditation because I like meditation. Meditation works for me. I was like, I'm going to go and do a bunch of meditations. But after working with this Balinese healer, I was questioning, did he do something? Like, was there some kind of magical hooju that he did on top of the yoga that made the yoga make me feel mentally better? Or was it just the yoga? So I remember taking classes there or trying to sign up for a class. And the class I wanted to take, the schedule was off. I went all American on them. I won't lie. I went hardcore American, like, your schedule's supposed to be a certain way. You should be this way. You know, this is ridiculous. This says it should be this time. And then the next class I had was this Kundalini Yoga class. And I was like, whatever. I'm here already. I might as well take this class. And so signed up for the Kundalini class. I get in class. People are welcoming. And I'm like, okay, hey, how's it going? Everyone's really nice. I'm like, this doesn't feel like classes in America. I'm like, this is really awesome. The teacher speaks perfect English. He was American, I believe. And he's guiding me. The class was multicultural. I felt comfortable. I felt welcome. I felt safe. And we're going through the moves. I sat, not all the way. Well, by the time I got there, I couldn't get to my second row, but I wasn't all the way in the back. So I was in a good position where I could see what was going on and I felt comfortable. And we're doing basic moves. I'm like, oh, this is easy. You want me to, move my hand this way, move my arm this way. You want me to chant that? I'm like, this is super easy. And then we get into a point where we're just doing a basic neck roll. I'm just moving my neck slowly around my head in a slow motion. And then all of a sudden, I have this moment where someone had pushed the mute button on our remote control. I couldn't hear anything. But I felt this wave of emotion coming over me. I was just like, what is this? Why? Oh my God. I start ugly crying to where it's like, it's not coming out. It did not look cute. When I was able to kind of compose myself and able to look up around the room, I'm like, yo, I'm not the only one ugly crying in this classroom. I'm like, what just happened? Like, we were just doing a neck roll that feels just pretty basic, but why are there multiple people who are releasing emotions? Like, I knew I had a lot to release, but I'm like, I was kind of embarrassed, but I didn't feel so embarrassed because I wasn't alone. So I'm like, okay, next day, let's try this again. Let's see if this Kundalini Yoga thing is going to do the same thing. And it did. And I kept finding myself releasing more and more and more. And people were friendly. I'm doing yoga nidra. I'm trying all these different other types of yoga. And I'm like, I'm noticing I feel physically better. I'm noticing that I don't feel so stressed. I'm noticing that my shoulders feel more relaxed. And I'm crying when I'm not necessarily the biggest crying person, but I was in a space where I felt safe. I felt heard. I don't even know if I felt like I wanted to cry, because I didn't really feel like I wanted to cry, but my body was like, oh, it's time to release. And so we're going to release all this, because whatever movements this class is, you're doing, it's releasing all these emotions. And so I went with it. I was so excited to come back to the United States. And like, I'm going to do this Kundalini Yoga. When I come back, it's going to be amazing. I go to this place in Palo Alto, in California, which I live in the Bay Area. I live in the Bay Area in California. And so I live close to Palo Alto. Palo Alto was the closest place I could find to do a yoga class, this Kundalini Yoga class. And I remember walking in, everyone's dressed in white and they have their heads wrapped. And I'm like, oh my God, we have hit a cult. No one had any of this stuff in Bali. Like, it was like everyone was wearing whatever they wanted to wear. And again, I felt that situation where no one was really talking to me and I felt really alone. No one looked like me. And I'm like, oh, is it only in Bali that yoga feels good? Why is this feeling like this? And so I backed out. I did the class and I left the class immediately back to the door, because I was like, this is very cultish. I gotta go. And then from there, I tried different other types of yoga. I tried Iyengar. I always jack up the name. I've done Juvanuti, which I love. I have tried a couple other different types of yoga, restorative yoga. And I found yoga like Juvanuti and Kundalini that has more of a spiritual aspect to it. It's not just about, let's get the body right. Let's get it going. I feel like when I'm in what I deem a regular yoga class, like a hatha class or vinyasa class, especially when I first started, I started feeling that these weren't for me, because it didn't feel like it slowed down for me to connect and have those moments of mental clarity, those moments of releasing of emotions. And I think that's why I gravitated so much towards Kundalini and Juvenuti yoga. And I couldn't find a Kundalini class that was close. There was one across the bridge, but if you've ever been in the Bay Area, especially pre-pandemic, crossing a bridge could be very, very dangerous. You may think you've gotten across the bridge in a decent amount of time, but oh wait, on the way back, there's traffic and dun, 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 you're stuck in 2 hours of traffic. So you never know what's going to happen. So we don't really cross bridges unless there's a real valid reason to cross the bridge. And so I kind of got out of it for a bit. And then the pandemic happened and I was so blessed. And I don't even know how I discovered these two sisters. They go by the name of the Brujas of Brooklyn. They are amazing. They are two powerful, dynamic Dominican sisters who reintroduced me to Kundalini Yoga. They had a beautiful, beautiful community of Black and brown women who were all practicing. They were doing sadhanas, which are daily practices of yoga. And they were doing these Kundalini practices that I was like, oh my God, this feels good. This feels right. And wait, I'm in community with people who look like me and I can tell my situation too. We had a WhatsApp group that people talked about what was going on in their lives and people were experiencing issues with COVID or other family issues or leaving relationships, emotions that were coming up through these Kundalini practices. And I was like, this is my group. This is my community. I don't feel judged. I feel loved. And it got me to the point where I realized I wanted to deepen my practice in Kundalini. So I was like, and I spoke to a spiritual mentor who was like, it's in your blood. It's part of who you are. Like, this is who you are. This is what you're meant to do. And I was just like, well, I don't know what I'm meant to do, but I'll take the class. And so I was like, I'll take a yoga teacher class and discover more for myself, not to teach, because I'm like, I'm not about the teaching. This is about more of me deepening my spiritual healing, because I hadn't experienced this deep level of spiritual healing or of just healing in general, emotionally, traumatically, ancestrally, in any other form. Like Reiki was good and it really helped and I really love Reiki. Therapy is fire. I love my therapist. My therapist is amazing. I've done other classes with other people and other programs and those all have been great. But nothing had hit me the way Kundalini did, especially in specific moments. I just felt immediate responses to whatever I was going through, whether I would mentally feel better, but not only would I mentally feel better, I'd feel more clarity. Like I just felt like I understand why it's called the yoga of awareness, because I felt clearer in what I needed to work through in life, what was going on in life, and what were my blocks. I started feeling like, oh, I'm blocked here. And I was learning through working with the Brujas of Brooklyn and then doing my own research and finding other things online. I'm like, oh, wait, I can use this yoga for specific reasons. Oh, I'm having a lot of anger. I could use this breath work. Oh, I'm having this. I can use this Kriya and this meditation. And it was also the first times where I'm doing meditation where I wasn't lost in thought. Oftentimes when I would just sit there in meditation, I'm just like, okay, just be really still, be one with the universe, and you're just let all the thoughts go out of your head. I'm always having the chatterbox. I don't know if you're having the chatterbox. I'd have the chatterbox in my head and it's just like all these thoughts are happening and I can't stop them. I can't stop them. But with Kundalini meditations, with a lot of them having chants and you're making hand movements and other things like that, those thoughts weren't there as much. And I was just like, there's something with this yoga. And so I decided to sign up for a class, and I signed up for yoga teacher training with Dream Hive out of New York. It was an online class, and I had the most phenomenal teachers. Dream Hive was amazing. They have Sept and Gurudaram, who we just call GD, who look completely opposite. And I'm just like, I'm not going to get anything from this older white man. He has this like turban on, the long beard. He talks really slow. And I'm like, his energy is blowing me. Taking a class a couple more weeks in, I'm like, oh my God, I love this man. This man has just so wise in so many different ways. Sept was just so beautiful in the way she explained things to us. And I felt seen. And then we had, teachers who looked like me. Amin Bir, who was this amazing African-American yoga teacher who broke down the anatomy of the body in a way that I'm like, oh, wait, I get this. But not only did I get this, I'm like, there's someone here that looks like me, that's teaching me how to do this practice. even still within all of that, I was just like, nope, not planning on teaching. This is just for me. And I was feeling all the things. I was working through being in a relationship quickly and getting out of a relationship. And I don't think I would have processed and flowed to realizing this person was so freaking not for me. Go back to a couple episodes and you can hear what blink happened. But I don't think I would have flown through that in a way and gotten through it and out of it quickly and feeling good and releasing all of it had it not been for my yoga practice. And so as the practice went on, months of training, and I'm secretly training because I'm not telling anyone, because I'm like, I have been telling people how much I hate yoga. I can't sit up there and be like, dun, 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 guess what? I'm now a yoga teacher. So I hid it from everyone because that's where I was. I was hiding everything I was doing. And it was just for me. So I'm like, why did anyone need to know? And then we got towards the end of training. And that was earlier in 2022. And I realized this was something I cannot not do. I felt spiritually called to be a teacher. And I now understood why my spiritual mentor was like, this is who you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be a teacher. It is in you. It is your path. And there was something that just clicked. It was like, wait, this is my path. It was a moment where I don't care if I'm teaching for free. I don't care if I'm on the corner and I'm just teaching a random class. I have to teach. This practice is so within me that it's something that for the first time, I feel like it's something I want to be consistent at. It's interesting with Reiki, as much as I love Reiki, I always felt insecure talking about Reiki to some degree. It's like, oh, I don't really, I know what I'm doing, but I never felt comfortable talking about it. I don't care how much I know about Kundalini yoga in general. I can't help but talk about it. I can have a conversation with any random stranger about the joys and the amazement and the benefits of doing yoga. And so it came to a point in my teacher training. I was like, no, yeah, I guess I'm about to be a teacher and I really am going to teach. And I have been. Every Sunday I teach at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time online. You can always go to hellowellwithdanielle.com to join the classes. They're now donation based. And now I'm also teaching at YogaLove in Oakland. This is beautiful, beautiful studio that I'm super excited about. I start teaching classes there September 7th. I'm doing a 6-week series on the intro to Kundalini, and I can't wait. This is a studio that's really focused in on being a part of the community. I felt loved and just embraced right away from the owners, and I'm excited. I'm excited. I feel like a kid in a candy store, because I get to share something that I hated to now love. And I hope that you join me in understanding why I love it so much. So that's my story, and that's how I went from hating yoga to now being a yoga teacher. I definitely know I'll be doing more episodes later on. I'll be the first to admit I had the misconception about what yoga was and what it could do. And I know that I can't be alone. So my goal, or part of one of my missions, is to introduce and educate people on what I discovered, because had I been closed-minded and had I not, let me phrase that, low-key, it wasn't even that I was closed-minded. Had I had control over the Balinese healer, I would not be doing yoga today. So shout out to that Balinese healer, and y'all have a good day. I'll talk to you soon. Ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.